August 11th, 2022, the Social Circle Board of Education is called to order. I'd like to ask everyone who like, please stand as we bring the Lord's Prayer together. And please stand as we pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Please remain standing for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of our agenda. Dr. Hooker, are there any changes?
Mr. Chairman, there are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented? So moved. Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say aye. The agenda is approved unanimously. Next, we have minutes from the 2 weeks of board meetings from June and July. Sitting before you, I have a motion to approve both sets of minutes. So, do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. The minutes are approved. Next, we have our board comment section. And we have a guest here, but before I get to that, I'm sure you've seen the news, sad news for many of us, most of us, all of us, I think. That, Dr. Hooker just let us know that his last day in Social Circle, the city school system, will be October the 7th. And he'll be here one more board meeting then. So we still have time to celebrate his accomplishments, but he will be for a while. Anyway, what that means to the school board is that by October 8th, we have to have someone in that role. And we will. And so that's our deadline. And that's my comment for tonight, except for thank you for coming. Next we have on our agenda Mr. John Osborne. John is with the Georgia Department of Education and the Department of Transportation, I believe. And there's a clean school bus program that is available. And John is going to share that information with everyone here. John?
Okay, thank you for having me. I am honored to be here, and I am not here to sell you a thing. I am your consultant. I have 68 school systems that I call on and serve when it comes to pupil transportation. I do most of the educational curriculum for the state bus drivers and the trainings and that sort of thing. I wear a lot of hats. I've done a lot of things in my career in education. I think I've touched everything from custodian all the way through to assistant superintendent for district services my last 16 years as a high school principal. And so I've been there, kind of done that. But I want to share with you tonight an initiative that's out there. And that's something that you will have to make a decision on where you go with it, either now or in the future. And that is the federal government right now has an initiative out there with $5 billion that's going to be handed out for electric school buses. The state of Georgia just announced a couple months ago that they're putting $5 million with that. And I'm going to show you what all that looks like in just a minute. I have studied this until my head is swimming, and if you ask me questions, I'm going to do my best to answer them. But any answer that I give you right now would almost be premature, because the reason the federal government and the state are willing to give away very expensive electric buses is they need something to study. That's the bottom line, okay? There are several school systems that are going to take advantage of that. You may or may not be interested, but I'm going to share some facts with you and answer any questions you have. The Clean School Bus Act, again, it's a federal deal, $5 billion, split in two ways, all right? Or two, there's two tiers to their giving. Go ahead and move to the next one. And you can't see that, but I can tell you, you're not on there. What I've got behind me are the counties and the school systems in the state of Georgia that are tier 1 systems, that if they so choose to apply for an electric bus, they're going to get $375,000 for that electric bus from the federal government, okay? They're tier 1. I've got a problem with that because I was a principal in White County. We had 60% poverty in White County. White County's not on that list. But they're not on that list because that is a community that is wealthy in tourism and tourist-owned homes. But the districts, the children are poor. There's a caveat. Go to the next slide. You can hold it there. I think you did, or back up one. Yeah, over to the side, number 2, it says if you're a charter system and you dispute that 20% poverty level, you can appeal to be a tier 1 district. So when you apply, you can do that. Now, if I was still in White County and I was applying for an electric bus, I would have a fantastic argument because we were a charter system with 60% poverty and we should have been a tier 1. I don't know where you're at, but you're not tier 1. But we're going to look at what that means to you. This is the timeline for the first dispensing of money for electric buses. So if you were going to seek an electric bus, you would have to apply, you would have to apply by August the 19th, which is next Friday. You would have to have a SAMS number, which you probably do. That SAMS replaced, SAMS.gov replaced the Dun & Bradstreet ratings and that sort of thing. But if you don't have a SAMS number, it takes you 10 minutes to apply for a SAMS number. But in order to apply for a federal grant for a free electric bus, or 2 or 3 or 10, you have to have that SAMS number. And that's the timeline, not only for submitting the application, but you can see it tells you when they're going to award the grants and that sort of thing. All right, go to the next one. We'll switch gears on it just a little bit. And I'm going to talk to you about the state's amended budget, and then we're going to come back to electric, okay? A couple of months ago, the governor signed an amended budget, which was unprecedented. The state had never seen anything like it from a transportation standpoint. Okay? Our coffers are very healthy right now. If you watch the commercials with the governor race, they talk about the fact that our coffers are very healthy right now. So with that, they amended the budget and they came to the Georgia Department of Education, Pupil Transportation, and said, we're going to give you, let's go to the next slide, $188 million to help these school systems get their bus fleets up to speed. And if you've not lived in that world, it's a different world. When I was assistant superintendent in Oconee County, I had to live in that world where we had 20-something-year-old buses, hydraulic brakes that weren't safe. And it was hard to come up with a way to buy the buses to keep those fleets up so that they were as healthy as they could be. This is an effort, the Georgia legislature and our governor, to say, we hear you, we know you've got some aging buses, we want to help you. So they come to us with $188 million, That 5 million, we're gonna talk about in just a minute, that's a local incentive for alternative fuel buses, which you can dip into in a stacking method. I'll tell you what that means in a minute. But if you'll slide down just a little bit, Social Circle was sent a document that said you have 5 buses that you can order today. We're gonna give you 3 years to order them. But if you need all 5 of them today, order them today. Now, they did that in 21, not near as much money, and they just sent the money because it wasn't a bond bus. They just sent the money to you guys, and you're ready to buy the bus. We had a nightmare at the time because a lot of districts didn't buy the buses. So now, the way they're going to do this amended budget money is you buy the bus, submit the PO, and state pays you back. Okay? Just like a bond bus. But right now, that's what you have sitting there to buy 5 buses. Today, or 3 years from now. Okay. Go ahead to the next slide. And we've talked about that, so go along down. Okay. Now, that $5 million was put aside by the state legislature, and with the opportunity for you to apply for state money for alternative fuel buses. Now, alternative fuel buses is what we came in here to talk about, Mike, the electric buses. But there's more to it than electric buses. There's propane, there's natural gas. You'd be amazed at what people run. Little old Lincoln County, exactly the same size system as you do, runs over half their fleet propane. Okay? So alternative fuel buses are out there. They're out there in big numbers in the state of Georgia. They're not out there in big numbers of electric. There's one electric bus in the state of Georgia. It's in Fulton County. This time next year, there'll be a lot more than that because several people are going to take advantage of the free bus and kind of enter into this study, if you will. Okay, go ahead. All right, hold right there. So, of that $5 million, if you wanted to utilize some of that money, the state of Georgia will give you $100,000 for up to 2 electric buses. Okay? They would give you $12,000 for as many propane as you wanted, as long as the money got out. Okay? But $100,000, not to exceed 2 buses. So, remember I told you, you were in tier 2 of the federal money. If you were in tier 1, you got the bus, lock, stock, and barrel. But when you're in tier 2, you don't get all that money. I'll show you what that's going to look like. Or, well, hold right here for a second. Yeah, let me explain this and then we'll get into a little bit more what that's going to look like. In addition to that $5 million, and that $188 million they put toward buses, they set aside $34 million, and they said, we want an emphasis put on safe buses in Georgia. Friday of last week, it'd be a week tomorrow, Upson County lost a driver to a head-on collision. If they had the safety money, or used safety money, and that bus had the accident mitigation system, probably wouldn't have lost that driver. But let's look at what this looks like. And you guys have this figure somewhere. This rubric, those 5 buses I told you that you had, if you want latch shoulder belts on them, the state's going to pay every penny of it. They're going to give you another $12,000 to put latch shoulder seat belts. Okay? Are they mandating you do that? Absolutely not. And probably never will. All right? But the mindset is, the legislature said, we think that shoulder belts will make a difference. That would be up to the local system, but they did that or not. But if you do it, in addition to the $88,000 you get per bus from the state's going to give you $12,000 more for the seat belts. If you go with the collision avoidance mitigation software, they're going to pay for that too. Guaranteed. And when I say guaranteed, I mean for their 1,747 buses that were allotted in that amended budget money, And of that 34 million, 28 of it is put aside so that every one of those buses, if we so choose, could have seatbelts and collision avoidance and accident mitigation. Now, what's below that are other things you could get put on those buses. And the state would give you money for that as well. But the maximum is the right-hand column. In other words, if you got interior cameras, the state will give you back 50% of what you paid for those interior cameras, not to exceed $1,000. Does that make sense? Okay. My favorite, I'm probably going to share one opinion with you tonight, and that's it. I'm not here to really share opinions, I'm here to share facts and guide you. That illuminated sign stuff is amazing. I mean, I'm really concerned. We lose more kids at bus stops than anywhere else across this country. We lose about 15 kids a year. And we've done nothing with school buses to enhance that visibility. You know, a cop car now blinds you. A wrecker blinds you. An ambulance blinds you. School buses are the same. This illuminated signage is awesome. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, if you choose to go with an electric bus, you have to get rid of the bus. And when I say get rid of it, I don't mean just park it somewhere. You've got to completely scrap it. We're going to look at what that looks like in just a minute. And right now, I'm in a dialogue back and forth with the feds because in my world and in your world, we do something different. We take, in what district, what size, it's just a matter of how many. Every school district has their route buses, and then they have buses over here on the side that are called spare buses. And the way the formula is right now is you've got to get rid of a bus that's been running down that road every day. And I'm telling them, y'all, that's crazy. You need to take that one's been running down that road all day. That's old, but it's newer than one of those spares, and work backwards and get rid of one of those spares. That's just one of those things we'll have to work through as my systems get these new electric buses, because watch what you have to do with those buses. Go to the next slide. You have to literally drill a hole through the block and cut the frame and scrap the bus. Sell it for scrap. Now that bus is going to be a 2010 or older, and it's got to be a bus that you're still using, but anyhow, that's what you've got to do to it if you get this free electric bus. And I'm still talking free, even though you're tier 2, and I'm going to show you what that means in a minute. Go to the next one. Here's where I'm going to show you what that means. So in tier 2, you don't get $350,000 or $375,000, excuse me. You get $250,000 for a school bus, for a Class C or a Class D school bus. Remember, I showed you you're allotted $88,110 for 5 buses right now. You've never, ever in the history of Social Circle been offered 5 buses. Ever. All right? You took one of those buses, put your allotment toward it, then you took the state fuel incentive money, you've got way more than enough to get an electric bus, if you so choose. But I would tell you that's probably not a good idea because you leave money laying on the table. And what I mean by that is you can stack money in these grants, meaning you can use different sources. But somebody's going to cut you off, and it's going to be the state of Georgia. State of Georgia is going to say, okay, if you use that $88,110 and that $100,000, we're not going to give you the difference in the price of that bus and the total sum. Does that make sense? You follow me on that? You're not going to get more than $375,000. So, if I were you and I were going to get an EV bus, I might just keep my 5 buses alive and well and do whatever I was going to do and take that $100,000 to $250,000 and put a little bit with it. But all this is going to be decisions that you have to kind of chew on if you want to consider it all. Okay? But man, it's like my daddy told me years ago. He said, son, it's so wonderful to have options. There's so many people, so many places, and so many things where you just have to do what you have to do. You don't have options. Social service, you got options. You got good options sitting in front of you. Okay. All right, let's do that. So, when I leave tonight, you got to weigh out those options and decide where you go with those 5 buses, when you buy them, what you put on them, what type of fuel they are. All right, go to the next slide. But if you're going to go electric, we got to get you going now on this application, because you got plenty of time. It's not a lengthy application, but by next Friday you have to hit send. If you hit send and you decide you don't want it a month from now, you're not locked in. But if you don't get your name in the hat by next Friday, you're locked out. Now, when I say locked out, there will be, I think, it's not been made public, but I think there will be another wave. I think there will be a second round. But I'm not as optimistic of that as I was a couple of days ago, because my systems have started sending in their paperwork for this grant money. Madison County, Jenkins County, Hall County, several are applying for this money. So it's kind of, there's more people going after it than I thought. So you've got the $445.50 sitting there for 5 buses. Spend it today, spend it 3 years from now, spend it 2 years from now. Spend it on diesel, gas, propane, natural gas, electric, however you want to spend it. Your choice. Of those 5 buses, I would advise you to take advantage of any of this other free money that you can tag onto it, okay, to help make that bus nicer, safer. It's a whole different ball of wax if we sit here debating seatbelts. It's amazing to watch a school bus with seatbelts, and before it had seatbelts, and look at the cameras of the behaviors of no seatbelts versus the behaviors of the school system with seatbelts. Fulton County is about 60% seatbelts right now, and they're going up 100%. And I've got systems that said, I will never put a seatbelt on a bus. State's never going to make it. That's your community's decision what fits you. The bottom line, no, go back. Bottom line is safety of children, period, end of story. When I was sitting in the seat of assistant superintendent in Oconee County, Georgia, as district services assistant superintendent, and was responsible for transportation, I had 5 buses with hydraulic brakes that I was the only one in the district, other than the pupil transportation folks, that knew for the safety of kids, we need to get those buses off the road. Okay? I don't know where you're at with your fleet. Greg's got to tell you that. Okay? But when the dust settles, your job is safety children. I got to pull the chapter out. I know y'all had a great year of basketball. It ended controversial, but a great year, so I'm going to leave you with the term, the ball's in your court. All right? Yes. But I'm here to answer any questions you got and help you go forward with whatever's next. Don't have a dog in fight. Don't care where you go, what you do. But I'll help you till the cows come home with whichever way you decide to go. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Yes.
That's a good question. Obviously, diesel buses will run forever. The electric buses are guaranteed 10 years. And nobody knows beyond that. It kind of blew my mind last week to hear that there are districts up north that are changing out the diesel buses that have 20 years on them, but still have a great body, and they're putting electric drivetrains on there, converting them to electric. But the bottom line is about the same warranty that, and going deeper into your question, in your cycle of replacement, the state of Georgia says every 10 years we're going to we're gonna take that bus off of your books as far as inventory for a Class C bus. That's just a typical bus with the long nose like you see, 72 passenger. The big old transit buses, the state of Georgia says you gotta keep those running for 14 years. But on an electric, the batteries and drivetrain and all that's 10 years right now. And in the Clean Act program, you have to guarantee that you'll run it for 5. You'll give it 5 years.
The batteries are guaranteed.
The batteries are guaranteed for 10.
What's the cost of replacement? What's the cost of replacement?
Good question. The batteries it comes with a twin pack of batteries. I think all 3 brands do. It'll get you about 100 to 120 miles on a route. You can add an option of a third battery pack, $54,000, and get about 220 miles.
How long does it take to recharge it?
There's 2 different types of chargers. There's a rapid charger and a slow, what's called a smart charger. But basically, they're not quick. They're not a 15 to 30 minute turnaround. They're 2 hours to longer. There's a whole education to the process of an electric. You want to run the battery between 80 and 20%. You don't want to drop it below 20. And there's a whole lot of working knowledge that would go with that. Do you all use the EMC or do you use Georgia Power? Georgia Power, really? Okay. Then there's some things they would work, you'd have to work closely with them. And I'm an old energy manager, I told you I wore many hats. But you would want those things charged at a time that didn't cost you money. You charged it while you had kids in the building. You're going to set it in peak demand charge. It's going to drive that up. But you wouldn't do that no way. You would charge. You put those things on charge at night when everybody's gone home.
What kind of speed are we talking about?
I've ridden on one. They will go. I mean, they'll go faster than you want to go. If you can imagine a golf cart on steroids, that's what they are. I mean, they will go.
I understand we have until next Friday, I guess, to apply for the program.
Correct.
When can we back out? When's the cutoff to say we're going to change our mind? We don't want to
I will get that information to Dr. Hunter. I do not know the answer to that, but I'll find
apply.
out.
But there is a date. You're not locked in.
I think you can. I think you can back out up until when they award the contract, which was in October. But I'll check to make sure. Let's answer that. I'll get a solid answer on that.
Mr. Osborne, thank you for that presentation.
I have some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you program, well, first of all, if we don't use the grant money for the 5 buses, and we just use 250 plus 100,000, that's 350.
Right.
What would one EV bus and one of the fast chargers cost to your attention to what?
Fast charger is about 20,000, but you would get 13 of that back in the rebate. And then an EV bus right now today, they're saying it's 375,000, the base model. If you wanted air on that, you would add the air off of the state contract. And same bells and whistles you would on the diesel or anything else. So basically, here's the key, y'all. They're wanting to get a bunch of EV buses out there for school systems as a working order as a test sample, bottom line.
No question. On the cost to drive the same amount of miles on diesel fuel versus the cost of electricity in Georgia today, what is the mile per gallon? How much less does it cost, or does it cost less to power an EV for the same number of miles?
I asked that question of an agency that's kind of spearheading a lot of this stuff, and they can give you guesses, but just being honest, they don't know. Now there's going to be a program called a fleet that will track all of that for you, and that's what they're wanting to do. Their predictions today, one of the smartest guys I think I've ever met today, their predictions, it's pennies in comparison. But there's not, the state of Florida's got 218 EV buses out there, Georgia's got one. It's just so new that we won't have the answer to that until $5 billion worth of buses get out there and people get data back.
One last question.
Okay.
On the faster chargers, you said you need to keep the bus at 20, maybe 20%. Aren't those programmable?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
they'll time it when the
Yes.
peak is
Yeah.
not, and also to keep it to 80?
Yeah. You want to, the lady told me, she said in layman's terms, you got a smart charger and a dumb charger. Dumb charger is just like what you have if you got a golf cart at home, you plug it in, and when you plug it in, it's giving it all it's got. Or you've got a smart charger that you literally from your iPhone, you tell it how much when and all that sort of thing. And one charger, there's 2 buses. On both the smart and the regular.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, I want to say thank you, Mr. Osborne, for the presentation, and it's something we will have to look into. As I know, I think Mr. Callahan said he spoke with you in 10 systems so far has ordered electric buses, and as I shared with him in the Northeast Georgia area, only 1, possibly Barrow, and 2 in Oglethorpe. Oglethorpe fits the first category, where they're high poverty as well as rural, and Barrow is in tier 2. But the issue, this was new to me today, that you could wait 3 years before ordering the buses.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you have 3 years to spend that money, and I'm gonna tell you now, every year, when I say we, my department begs for bus money. And this past year on this amended budget, and we've told them, we're light years behind, we've run full buses, y'all, we got, and will they come through big? But when they come through big, it was a disclaimer. You may not get any more for 3 years. We all know that's gonna be driven by what the economy does.
Right.
Okay, but right now, you've got 3 years worth of buses up front that you can buy now or wait exactly 3 years.
And how many districts are going for propane buses and natural gas?
You would be, I don't have many in my recents that run natural gas. A lot of propane. And I'm gonna tell you, I had that kind of blew my mind. Lincoln County, the chief mechanic down there is 10 years older than me at least. And I was down there not long ago, and I said, I can't believe you run that many propane. He said, I love this stuff. He said, we never work on it. And he said, I ran a trucking outfit for years. He said, I'm a diesel guy. He said, but we're going 100% propane if we can. So propane's another option. Quite frankly, if you pull up that Clean Bus Act, in addition to electric money, there's propane money there too from the federal government. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next on our agenda is public participation. We have nobody to speak tonight. So we'll take about a 1-minute break, and then we'll come back for the finance section after that. Okay, next we'll move on to the finance section of our agenda. We'll ask our CFO, Mrs. Nicole Cross, to present the financial report.
Good evening. Tonight presented is the May 2022 financial report. We are 92% of the way through the fiscal year. We've received 94% of our general fund budgeted revenues, and we have spent 96% of our general fund budgeted expenditures. We're slightly over 92% in some functional categories, as most of our expenditures happen during the 10-month school year. Currently, revenues exceed expenditures by a little over $136,000. We still anticipate ending the year without the use of any fund balance. Encumbrances for the general fund total $97,000. Next, we have our special revenue funds. Currently, awards remain at, for 22 remain at a little over 3.9 million. Drawdowns for May totaled over 103,000, and these funds have all been received. Encumbrances for the special revenue funds total 81,000. Next, we have our school food service fund. We're at 140% of budgeted revenues and 123% of budgeted expenditures. In May, we served 36,330 meals. This equated to a USDA reimbursement of $137,000. Encumbrances for school food service fund total $1,100. Next, we have our SPLOST fund. SPLOST collections in May for April collections totaled $191,000 from Walton County, which is a 13% increase from the prior year, and $2,500 from Newton County, which is an 8% increase. The cash balance in the SPLOST fund is $5.1 million. Encumbrances for the SPLOST fund total $945,000. Are there any questions?
Hearing none, do I have a motion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the financial report as presented by Ms. Cross?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say aye. Financial report is approved unanimously.
Next, we have Freshway update. May and June collections. May were allocated to the Christian Learning Center, and June was allocated to the First Baptist Christian School. So our program to date to collections remain at a little bit over $120,000.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Next, we have our superintendent's report, and I'll turn this section over to Dr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I will share with you our enrollment thus far. We are on our 7th day of school, I believe. And if you look at enrollment, I want to compare this to last year's count at the end of the school year. The primary enrollment has decreased by 16 students. The elementary enrollment has decreased by 10. The middle school enrollment has decreased by 18. And the high school enrollment has increased by 28 students. If you look to your far right, the column scale indicates the number of students who have elected to participate in a virtual learning environment academy. Those students are our homeschool students or our private school students who selected to be a part of this program. And it's only for our middle school and high school. Do you have any questions concerning our enrollment?
If I could, do we know where those students go?
In my conversation with some of the registers throughout this week, we have some students who are going to neighboring counties. I'm not sure how many are going to private schools, but I know at our high schools they're going to foothills or transferring to other counties. Any other questions? All right, thank you. At this time, we'll have the portrait of a graduate party up to the board.
Good evening, board members. We wanted to give you an update on our continued improvement processes. And this evening, we'd like to call your attention to our work to develop a portrait of a graduate. Per our strategic plan, the SCCS vision is to ensure that every child that we serve has access to the knowledge and skills needed to become mindful, productive, and empowered citizens. And this vision was developed with input from students, families, community, and staff members. And our stakeholders made it clear to us that we must empower our students with an excellent and equitable education. In order to thrive, our students need 21st century literacies, competencies, and character qualities. The Portrait of a Graduate development process allows school systems to reflect on their strategic plans as well as the current hopes, dreams, and needs of students, families, community, and staff members. The process helps school systems to identify and articulate the skills needed to ensure success for the students here in the Social Circle City Schools. The process typically results in comprehensive and long-term changes in instructional and organizational practices. This graphic from the Applied Educational System website describes 21st century skills that students will need in order to be competitive in a changing job market. And they include skills, specific skills regarding learning, literacy, and life skills. The learning skills that are referred to in this document include critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. The literacy skills include information, media, and technology. And the life skills include flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. The portrait of a graduate will become our North Star through which we filter our academic support, instructional, and operational decisions. It will help us to create deeper and more personalized learning experiences that foster the development of higher order thinking skills, enhancing learning dispositions, and effective collaboration skills that are needed for our students to succeed in a future workforce with many options and also great opportunities for them to engage in an empowering civic life. These deeper learning skills and competencies will promote the ability to transfer learning and apply them to new and complex situations in an ever-changing environment. These abilities are in high demand per our business and industry leaders. So let's discuss the Portrait of a Graduate development timeline. We actually got started on this process when Dr. Hooker joined us in 2019 and 2020. As you know, we worked together to develop a system-wide strategic plan, which is linked here, so you'll have easy access to it. We worked with the Georgia School Boards Association as well as the Georgia Leadership Institute for School Improvement in order to utilize a dynamic process which helped us to capture input from families, students, community members, and staff members, which resulted in the creation of our updated mission, vision, belief statements, and goal areas. These tools have tremendously helped us to be able to move our system forward in our efforts to empower all of our students with an excellent and equitable education. Our 5 goal areas are student achievement, readiness and engagement, safety and a culture of well-being, family and community engagement, quality staff and professional growth, as well as systems and operational effectiveness. And our goal area teams engage in regular meetings to develop and monitor the effectiveness of the specific activities in each of those areas. During 2020 and 2021, we spent lots of our time making sure that we were implementing our strategic plan year 1 activities. And in 21-22, the principals and I participated in a What Schools Could Be professional learning experience. These sessions were led by educational leaders from the University of Kentucky, and they focused on specific strategies that schools across the country and the world have successfully implemented in order to move schools from preparing students for the world our grandparents and parents inhabited to the ever-changing world that our students will lead. I've included a link to the website if you'd like to explore this in more detail later. Spring of 2022, we worked to develop a partnership with the GREAT initiative, which is also linked here if you'd like to have more additional information. This initiative is designed to improve student engagement across all subgroups, especially during this transition period of learning experiences and educational progress that's going on across Georgia. Personalized learning allows learners and educators throughout Georgia to reach their individual potential. Through the GREAT initiative, we've engaged LISI and Kennesaw State University to assist our schools to move towards deeper and more personalized learning through learning opportunities directed towards the individual needs of each specific school, as well as helping us with this profile of a graduate development process. Due to a federal grant, these valuable services are being provided at our school system for no cost to the system. For the remainder of 2022 and 2023, we're going to make sure that we introduce and develop our Social Circle City Schools Portrait of a Graduate. So far this year, we have spent time with our district leadership teams in July, as well as district staff meetings that we provided during pre-planning for staff members at each of our schools, where they provided us really valuable input about the directions that we need to head in and those skills and competencies that are going to be so important for our students to be successful. And then, of course, we are meeting with you here during August. Moving forward, we're going to continue to introduce and develop the Portrait of a Graduate to all of our community members. In August, Blissey will help us to facilitate our first superintendent's parent, student, and teacher advisory council meetings around their hopes and dreams for our students. On September 21st, we're going to hold our first town hall of the year. It will be here at 6:30 in the Activity Center. And the Blissey team is going to utilize a similar process to the one used when we developed the strategic plan. The format will focus on eliciting input from our families, our students, community, and staff members. Next, the design team will be composed of parents, students, community, and staff members, and we're going to begin meeting in September, October, December, and January for work sessions. And the goal of the design team will be to consider the input from all of the various stakeholder meetings, and then we will work to develop a visual that will be used to represent the stakeholders' vision. In February, we'll share the finished portrait of a graduate, as well as implications for future changes in instruction, support, and operational practices, in order for us to be able to continue to increase the benefits that students uniquely derive from attending the Social Circle City Schools. In 2023 and 2024, we'll begin implementing those processes. We look forward to your feedback, and we'll continue to provide you updates about our progress. The following options are available for you and all of our stakeholders. We've developed a Google site that will provide updates as well as links to resources about Portrait of a Graduate. And we also have a text option where interested community members or board members can text POAG to that telephone number, and then you'll receive text message updates along the way about our progress. We appreciate your support for our continued improvement and for helping us to be able to continue to increase the benefits that students and family members derive from being a member of the Social Circle City Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. Mr. Hilton, will you give us a technology and safety update, please, sir?
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for allowing me to do this. As you can imagine, both of these subjects, technology and safety, are on the hearts and minds of teachers, faculty, staff, students, parents, and everyone. I wanted to just give you briefly an update on our situation with technology. At this moment, we have about 2,700 Chromebooks in our school system. You saw our enrollment, which means we have more Chromebooks than we have students, which is a good thing, and that's thanks to your support as well as a grant from Facebook. We still have one more year worth of purchasing ability to purchase another grade level at each school of Chromebooks as they age out. But we do have a great ratio within all of our schools, and that doesn't even count our PC computers as well as our PC laptops and our iPads. So we're in good shape with our student access to technology. What I wanted to update you on in the subject of safety. Safety is on the hearts and minds of all of us right now, and you can't watch the news without having your heart wrenched about the things that are happening around our country. As our conversations at the schools have gone, and the conversations with administrators, two words came up that were very important to everybody, and that was communication and visibility. That was a topic of discussion that I had with the school resource officers as well. communication between the students and the resource officers, communication between the students and the teachers. Whenever they see something that's going on around them, to be able to communicate what they need, what is concerning them, any gaps in our coverage, and they are really good about sharing that with us. The visibility piece has been helpful in acquiring our new SRO for the year. Even though he's been out sick a couple of days, he has been in the hallways every single moment that I have been out here in the buildings to see him. Officer Edwards, if you haven't had a chance to meet him, as well as Officer Campbell at the primary and elementary school. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was the Strategics badge, and our principals, I will attest, and I know we've been working on a few things. We've had over, how many days of school we had? 7? We've had over 8 calls for help using the badges in the 7 days. All of those were medical assistance. And that allows us, we get alerts on our phones that are very loud. It's louder than Amber Alert, gets your attention to let you know exactly the location that their medical emergency is occurring. We're adding strategic systems to all of our new learning cottages. We have the vendors that are coming out to add those, so we have coverage over our whole campus. I mentioned the school resource officers. Again, we're blessed to have 2 great school resource officers in all of our buildings to communicate with our kids and to not just be there as a disciplinary deterrent, but also to interact with them as they reach out into the community. Go Guardian is the piece I shared with you last year. Go Guardian is our monitoring program that is in our technology that allows us to not just monitor and filter the content that the students access, but one of the greatest benefits it has allowed us to identify students that are talking about self-harm. Last year, we had quite a few of those instances that popped up through Go Guardian that allowed us to have conversations, very tough conversations, but very worthy conversations that were very helpful with these families. Because anytime a child is communicating using words that talk about harming themselves, it sends an alert to us that allows us to immediately reach out to the administrators as well as the school counselors to make sure that child is getting the assistance that they need. We tried it out, we piloted it this last year, 2 entrances at our high school with new access control panels. Access controls that would give us our faculty and staff access to several of the doors. It's going to be branching out to other locations on the back of our building, as well as some of the other locations at our other campuses. We'll be putting in the new access control on our central office, which would have keypads as well as apps that would allow and monitor as an individual that has been given rights to get in the building. That would be their key to entrance. And it would also say this person logged in at this time at this door. All of our entrances do have cameras, so it would coincide and give you that information as well. That transitions into our camera coverage. We have camera coverage over all of our campuses. We currently, in our last conversation, I know here at the middle school, high school, our SROs are working on developing a map of any blind spots that we have. And I guarantee if there's a blind spot, the students will find it if they know where the cameras are not. It's more for a protection situation for us. I'm able to monitor all the cameras from my office on the large screen there and share any footage of any events that go on. We have ongoing fire drills that we're required to have monthly fire drills. 2 months out of the year we have to have a threat drill as well as a weather drill to replace the fire drills. Also, we'll be having monthly meetings. I'll be having monthly meetings with the school level safety teams, which will include students, to talk about any safety concerns that have been brought up. This last item that I have here is a new program that I'm hoping to get kicked off very, very soon. It's called the Overwatch program. The Overwatch program will be a program basically filled by volunteers, dads, granddads, grandmoms, anyone that would like to go through our background check and be vetted, but to be visible within our buildings, not as a disciplinary deterrent, but just to be visible as another adult in the building, maybe at car dismissal and arrival, just to assist in areas where there may be some lacks of faculty and staff. So this is where I need your help. And I've mentioned this to the principals, but if you know of any community members, talk about it at your churches, civic organizations and things like that, of any individuals that would be interested in being a part of that volunteer program, they can commit to 1 day a week or 1 day a month or whatever they would like I need volunteers to man that program. And what we would do is we would outfit them in church where they would be very visible, because any threat actor that's coming into a building, if they see them, they're not coming in that door. So we're trying to get more and more adults in our buildings, in our halls. They are not there to mete out discipline. They are there to communicate, oh, I saw this, and to talk to the school resource officers and the school administrators to let them know what they have seen. But if you know of anyone, please reach out to me and give me their name, their contact information, and I will reach out to them. Because this is a program, we started thinking about it at the end of last year, but we want to get going very, very soon at all of our campuses. Does anyone have any questions?
On the volunteer piece, Mr. Hilton?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure that person would have to go through a background.
Yes, they would be go through it. They have to be fingerprinted. Anyone involved in interacting with our students would have to go through a background check. Right.
You've always said we did.
Be vetted. We've had, and there are guys that are out there, ladies that are out there, ex-military, ex-police, that would like to be more involved in our campuses. And like I said, the visibility is key in the communication piece. Any other questions?
Do you have a way to present that information to some of the community?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure there'll be lots of questions.
I'm making out some flyers right now that will explain what the program. I've got it all typed up about what are the expectations. The first step in that is if I'd like to have some volunteers that would step up to be leaders in the organization to do more of the planning. So if you know anybody, and I've received a couple of names from the campuses of grandfathers that want to be more involved, and just civic individuals to come in. But I will be putting out flyers and putting it on our website, social media, and sending it out to the organizations, maybe the Take Two, Standridge, and some other locations, and share with the community. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. For my comments, I want to say thank you to our community, to our faculty and staff, and for our administrators. We've had a great start of the school year. I believe it kicked off with our pre-planning as we had on that Wednesday where we had a food truck and the scoops here for our faculty to interact with one another in one location. I thought that was very effective. We received great feedback from that. Hopefully we can continue to use that during pre-planning. But again, thank you, board, for your support for this, and we're looking forward to having a great school year. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. Next on our agenda, we have new business action items. The first one is the adoption of the fiscal year 23 millage rate. And we'll see the document review. And the millage rate the superintendent is recommending is 18.722 for the fiscal year 2023 time period. And Ms. Cross, what was our millage rate for this? 19.278. So we're doing a full rollback. So I hope the citizens appreciate that. But, do I have a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for the final approval of the millage rate to 18.722 mills for fiscal year 2023? So moved. Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right. So the next action item is school property surplus disposal. And on the list, we have a 26-foot round lunchroom tables, 12-foot long lunchroom tables, and 100 blue plastic lunchroom chairs. The superintendent is recommending that we put these on disposal. So do I have a motion for these properties to be on disposal of this? Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. And next on our agenda, we have our executive session. And tonight, I believe it's all personnel. Okay, do I have a motion for executive session to amend the agenda to add real estate? I have a second.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say aye. Please note in the minutes that the executive session tonight will be for both personnel and real estate. So do I have a motion to exit regular session into executive session to discuss personnel and real estate? Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. I have a motion to exit executive session and re-enter regular session. Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll go to superintendent's recommendations for personnel now. Under classified, we'll go with certified and classified on the same slate. Under certified staff, our superintendent recommends Patricia Willis, special ed teacher, primary school. And under classified, Kim Wienert, aftercare assistant. Have a motion to accept these recommendations for personnel from our superintendent.
So moved.
Have a second.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have some recommendations from our superintendent for classified substitute teachers. I'll read the whole slate and we'll vote all at once. For substitute teachers, we have Jasmine Butler, Haley Crawford, Shannon Brooking, Misty Dykes, Mark Flowers, Rosalind Hogan, Amanda McCumbee, Caitlin Milligan, Autumn Stapp, Angel Hunt, Cassie Jones, Lindsay Long, Kayla Duncan, Shannon Watson. Have a motion to accept these recommendations from our superintendent. Have a second.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Meeting is adjourned.